Good evening, students. Saturday last class we discussed about the immunity. So yesterday was a Sunday, so 1 day break. So you may revise or not, I don't know. So although I gave a small summary of Saturday's class, so specifically immunity. So immunity is the resistance to the infection that immune system scans the body for pathogens. Immunity fights against the pathogens. And that immunity classified into the two types. What are they? Means innate immunity and another one is acute immunity. So innate immunity, which is also known as the non-specific immunity. Innate immunity, also called as a native immunity. The natural immunity, also known as innate immunity. So other names of innate immunity: non-specific immunity, natural immunity, and native immunity. What's the meaning of innate immunity? Means the defense or resistance obtained through birth, which is called innate immunity. Again, I repeat the definition for innate immunity: the defense or resistance obtained through birth, is called innate immunity. The natural defense mechanism is known as a innate immunity or native or a natural immunity. That innate immunity is inherited from parents to young one. It is non-specific. Innate immunity is a non-specific. All living organisms naturally gifted with the resistance to the certain infectious from the birth. That immunity is called innate immunity. In general, protective reaction of organism against any invasion. The mechanism is effective against a wide range of infection agents. It operates through many factors. That factors also, so in Saturday class, we discussed it, like physical and mechanical factors. Physical and mechanical factors means such as skin, cilia, coughing and sneezing. So while we are coughing, at that time that cold sputum will be come out. And by several biochemical factors, skin, coughing, and tear, saliva, urine. Those are the example for the physical and mechanical factors. The next one is the biochemical factors. Biochemical factors means some secretions. Some things will be secreted. For example, secretion of skin, secretion of the skin, sweat. For example, sweat. Sweating consists of the high concentration of a salt, which having the bactericidal activity, because that pH level is a 5.5. It having the microbicidal effect. The next one is a human milk. That is also example for the biochemical factor. The next one is a cellular factors. Cellular factors, body temperatures and inflammation, fever. So by the increasing that body temperature, the temperature also kills the organisms, or some toxic also dissolved with the help of the temperature. Those are the innate immunity. That's that thing already we discussed. The next one is today we are going to discuss about acute immunity. Acute immunity. So acute immunity is a specific immunity, which is also known as adaptive immunity. So adaptive, acute means we are receiving the immunity. Otherwise, that immunity will be boosted, stimulated by the action of vaccination. Otherwise, subsequent infection. For example, after birth. So in native immunity means nothing. By birth itself, the child or infant get a immunity from the mother. That is called as a innate immunity. Acute immunity means we can receive some immunity. Otherwise, immunity will be stimulated by the infection or vaccination. That is called as acute immunity. That's why which is called as adaptive immunity. That acute immunity is a specific immunity. We will discuss one by one. That acute immunity subdivided into the two types. What are they means? The first one is active immunity, another one is passive acute immunity. That active acute immunity furtherly subdivided into the two: natural acute immunity and artificial active acute immunity. Similarly, the passive acute immunity also subdivided into the two types. What are they? The first one is the acute passive immunity. The second one is artificial passive immunity. So we will discuss one by one. The first one, we should know what is the meaning of active immunity. What's the meaning of active immunity? Any idea about active immunity means? Before that, we should know what's the meaning of acute immunity. Any idea, Pa? About acute immunity? Opposite to the passive, opposite to the natural immunity. That is called as acute immunity. Definition for acute immunity. Acute immunity also called as adaptive immunity. The resistance developed by man during his life is known as acute immunity. Resistance developed during one's lifetime of humans, which is called acute immunity. That acute immunity is an adaptation against infection, hence which is also called as a adaptive immunity. Just now I told that acute immunity is not inherited from parents one, but it occurred once in lifetime. It will be kept in the particular persons. It stored in the memory cells. That immunity will be produced through the acute immunity. That immunity will be stored in the memory cells of immune cells, but it cannot inherited. Because which is a non-inherited one. That adaptive immunity caused by the specific antigens. Hence, that immunity also called as a specific immunity. Acute immunity caused by the specific antigens. Hence, that immunity is called as a specific immunity. The acute immunity is an adaptation that allows humans to copy better with the environment, and hence the acute immunity also called as a adaptive immunity. We'll discuss one by one. The first one is the acute immunity. Types of acute immunity. Active acute immunity. Active acute immunity is a resistance developed by an individual's response to the antigens entering the body, either natural infection or through vaccination. So the Saturday class I told what's the meaning of antigen. That it is a foreign particle. When it is entered into our body, at that time our immune system will be recognize that antigens and it will be produced some substance against that antigen, which is known as a antibody. So when that particular antigens will be entered, for example, any microorganism, Staphylococcus aureus, that marker in case, for example, Staphylococcus aureus is entered into our body means that organism, that bacteria will be recognized by the immune cells. Automatically, it will be produced some antibodies against that one. So automatically, that antibody will fight against the Staphylococcus aureus and kill that one. This is called as a acute immunity. So that immunity will be developed when it is not stimulated normally. So when the organism is entered into our body, at that time only that antibody will be produced. This is called as a acute immunity. This is called as a active acute immunity. So again, I repeat the definition. So active acute immunity is the resistance developed by an individuals in response to an antigens entering the body, either by natural infection or through vaccination, which is called active acute immunity. For example, immunity produced by the polio vaccine. So just now I told one example, the polio vaccine is another one example. When we are injecting the polio vaccine into the particular individual one, so at that time, immunity will be produced against the polio vaccine. So once that antibody is produced, means it will be stored in the memory cells. When the second time, in case, in either natural way, that polio vaccine is entered into our body, means automatically destroy that one, because already antibody is produced against the polio vaccine, polio virus. Clear? So this is example of active acute immunity. The active immunity involves in the synthesis of specific antibody, which is called humoral immunity. Otherwise, it will be produced the immunogenically active cells. So active immunity will produce the will be stimulate the two types of cells. What are they means? One is a specific antibody production, which is called as a humoral immunity by the B cells. Another one is a production of immunogenically active cells, which leads the cell-mediated immunity. So in two ways, it can kill the pathogens or antigens. So active immunity is the acute immunity. It is defense developed by the man. It is lifetime. So when the pathogens or vaccines enter the body, they are recognized as a foreign antigens. Antigen means a foreign particle. So recognized as a foreign antigens by immune system. So when the foreign things are entered, like organism or dust, which one is causes some unwanted things, disease which is considered as a foreign one. When which is entered, so that thing will be first recognized by the immune system. So when the B cells recognize the antigens, they will be activated because the T cells and B cells which is involved. T cells and B cells which is involved to create the immunity, to kill the antigens. Clear? So the B cells recognize either B cell or T cells, either to any one of the cells can recognize the antigens. When the B cells recognize the antigens, they are activated. So before that entry of antigens, it is not activated. When the antigen is activated, when we are switch on, at that time the light or fan will be on, like that. When the antigen is entered into our body, at that time the B cells will be activated. It will be produced the antibodies. This is an important question, ma. Kindly note it. The B cells are responsible for the production of antibody. B cells are responsible for the production of antibody. That antibody, the mechanism is simply, I will explain. The first, when the foreign antigens will be ended, at that time B cells will be activated because it gives some space, place to for the binding of antigens. Once the antigens are bind with the B cells, when the antigens are bind with the B cells, automatically B cells will be activated. When the B cells are activated, plasma cells activated. B cells produce the plasma cells. Activated B cells produce the plasma cells. The plasma cells are responsible for the production of antibodies. So kindly keep it in your mind, ma. B cells produce plasma cells. That plasma cells produce the antibody. So antibody, which cell is produced the antibody? Your options are B cells, T cells, or TC cells, and TH cells means B cells. In case that which cells are produced the antibody? For example, options are plasma cells, T cells, TH cells, and TK cells. Like that. At that time, your answer is a plasma cell. So B cell produce the plasma cells. That plasma cells are responsible for the production of antibodies. Clear? That antibodies will destroy the antigens due to the antigen antibody interaction. Clear? So that interaction, that mechanism is called as a humoral immunity. So humoral, Humoral. So humoral immunity means nothing. Humoral immunity means nothing that that antigens will be neutralized by the action of antibody production, which is called as a humoral immunity. Clear? That is an important question. Humoral immunity means antibody mediated. Another case, when the antigen is recognized by the T cells, the T cells are activated. That activated T cells produce the lymphokinins. That activated T cell produces the lymphokinase. That lymphokinase stimulate the macrophages to kill the antigens. Here, so just now I told anyone, B cells or T cells can recognize the antigens. In case now, when the antigen is ended, in case the T cells is recognize the antigens, means at that time T cells will produce the lymphokinase. T cells will produce the lymphokinase. That lymphokinase produces the macrophages. Lymphokinase produce the macrophages. That macrophages will kill the antigens. Clear? So that activated T cells produce the lymphokinase. It stimulates the macrophages. That is a cell. The macrophage is a cell. So that cell leads the macrophages. You know very well that Saturday class also I told that when the antigen is ended, at the time that macrophages will helps the antigens that engulfing, that antigens, that engulfed cell consists of the lysosome. The lysosome will neutralize the antigens. Clear. So in this way, that antigens will be neutralized. So here not antibody is involved. Here that cell is only involving the neutralization of antigens. So hence, which is known as a cell-mediated immunity. So T cells are responsible for the cell-mediated immunity. Important Neet question mark. So B cells are responsible for the antibody-mediated immunity through plasma cells of B cells. Second case is that T cells are responsible for cell-mediated immunity, which is cell involving macrophages. Clear. This is the important one. The next one, when the antigen is entered the body the first time, underline that thing, first time. So it produces the immune response. So when for first time, for example, first time that polio virus is entered into our body, at that time some immunity will be produced against that polio viruses. You consider first time the polio virus is entered into our body, at that time immune system will be response for the polio viruses. So that response is called as a primary response. So which means first time antibody will be produced against the polio virus, which is called as a primary antibody. It will be stored in the memory cells. Clear. So when the antigens enter the body for the first time, it produces the immune response, which is called primary immune response. Prime means the first time. First time immune system will be responsive. Clear. When it will be response, when the antigen is entered, at the time only response. Clear. So which is called as the primary immune response. That primary immune response produces the some cells, which is known as the memory cells. Primary immune responses produce the so many cells, includes the memory cells. That memory cells, name itself, it having the answer. Memory means supporting for remembrance. So memory cells remember the antigens. Memory cells remember the antigens. So, this boy, the polio virus, the person is a dangerous one. So, if you are allowing that polio virus to grow inside the human being, surely it causes the polio. So, we must destroy that polio one. So, like that, that immune system, that memory cell will be reacted. So, after the production of that antibodies against the polio virus, it will be stored in the memory cells. For what purpose means, then when the second time, we don't know, automatically that microorganism is present in everywhere. So we don't know that whether the environment having that many kind of organisms are present in the environment. So whatever may be, the polio virus may be entered the second time, third time, or so on. So if the second time the polio virus is entered, means surely it will be destroyed very easily, because already antibody is produced primarily. Clear. So quick destroy. For that purpose, so that is a prime use of memory cells. So when the same antigens enter in the second time, it produced a secondary immune response. The active immunity can persist in the body after prime response. Clear. One exception case is that AIDS patient cannot produce active immunity because of acute immunodeficiency. Clear. This is known as a active acute immunity. That active acute immunity furtherly classified into the two types. What are they? Just now I told, one is a active immunity, another one is a passive immunity. First one is a natural active immunity. We will discuss one by one. First, we are going to discuss about the natural active immunity. Resistance developed by the host after natural infection, which is called natural active immunity. Try to understand. Resistance developed by the host after natural infection, which is called natural active immunity. So that natural infection, like a cold or any other things, clear common cold or any other natural diseases, which is caused by that due to the water or contaminated food items, etc., which is a naturally caused, clear, from the environment. So like that, at that time, antigen is entered. So at that time, the natural immune system will be produced. So which is called as the natural active immunity. So don't confuse with the innate immunity. Innate immunity means entirely different. Clear? Already we discussed. So this is called as a natural active immunity. For example, a person attacked by a small box which develops a natural active immunity as he recovers from the disease, because the immunity will be produced against the small box. Naturally, the persons will be recovered soon, because that immunity will be produced against the particular smallpox antigens. The immunity acquired by way of such infections is long lasting in many cases. In many cases, for example, lifetime immunity is got the following certain vital infections such as smallpox, mumps, or etc. etc. Similar, in another way, there's some bacterial diseases like dysentery or influenza, that immunity is caused only the short-lived. So when the bacterial diseases are caused, at that time it produces on, at that time that bacteria will be short-lived. The diseases like a cold, the second attack may occur very soon after the first attack, thus showing the apparent lack of immunity. This is because of common cold caused by the various different viruses. A person may not become immune response for all those viruses. In another case, influenza can attack an individual's month or an year after the first attack. After the first entry of influenza, it may re-attack after the month or after a year. This is due to the antigenic variation noticed in the influenza viruses. So the immunity attained by the bacterial infections is commonly less permanent than the attained by a viral infection. Those are the important characters of a active artificial immunity. The next one is a artificial active immunity. Because the active acute immunities are classified into the two types. What are they means? First one is artificial active immunity. Another one is a passive immunity. Just now I told don't confuse yourself. Just now I explained about the active immunity. That active immunity is furtherly subdivided into the two types. What are they? One is a natural active immunity, another one is a artificial active immunity. Just now we discussed about the natural active immunity. Second one is the artificial active immunity. So natural active immunity means nothing that by the subsequent natural infection, antibody will be produced, immunity will be developed. That is called as a active natural immunity. The second one is the artificial active immunity, opposite to the previous one. The immunity developed by an organisms in response to the vaccine is called artificial active immunity. So kindly listen carefully, the immunity developed by an organism in response to the vaccine is called artificial active immunity. Vaccines are preparation of microorganisms or their product. Just now I told natural immunity means by the infection, through the natural infection, that immunity will be produced. Similarly, artificial active immunity means when the vaccines which is entered into our body, clear. So for example, any polio vaccines or any other vaccines will be when which is injected into our body. So how that vaccines are produced? The vaccines are produced from the microorganisms or a product of microorganisms. So which is that material is when which is injected into our body, that time also immune system will be produced. So anyway, the foreign particles can capacity to cause can cause the disease. That thing is ended in any form. It may be artificially we are injected, otherwise by transferred through naturally, automatically immune system will be activated. Here artificial active immunity, we are injecting that inactivated organisms through vaccines. It is vaccination. Clear. So vaccination means nothing, injection of that inactivated organism to the human body. That is called as a vaccination. So that vaccines produce the artificial active immunity. That vaccines we are prepared by the 3 types. That vaccines are broad. What's the meaning of vaccines, ma? The vaccines are suspensions of microorganisms or product of microorganisms which induce immunity in man against the infectious microorganisms. That is called as a vaccine. So vaccine means it must capacity to induce the immunity against infectious microorganisms, which is known as a vaccines. That vaccines are broadly classified into the 3 types. First one is a live vaccine. Second one is a killed vaccine. Third one is a toxoid vaccine. So live vaccines means microorganisms. Name itself it having the answer. Live vaccines means microorganisms are attenuated by a different method. For example, attenuation, loss of pathogenicity. What is the meaning of attenuation? Attenuation means loss of pathogenicity. Means the particular organisms can cause the pathogens. That is called as a pathogenicity. That pathogenic property only we can delete it, we can remove it, we can arrest it. That is called as a attenuation process. So our aim is that when the organism is entered into our body, at that time does not cause any harmful effect the human being. So in this way we can control that it. Clear? So this is called as a attenuation process. So through that attenuation or antigenicity or any one of the things, we can inject our body. So live vaccines means here organisms are not destroyed or heat killed. That organism will be live, but it will be controlled. For example, any person, your friend is continuously making some disturbance while you are studying. You cannot beat. You cannot beat that person. What do you do? What we do? We cannot kill him. We cannot beat him. What we do? We cannot tie by using that any other rope. Hands or legs will be tied. So like that vaccines means that live vaccines means that organism does not destroyed. That pathogenicity is inactivated. So after that inactivated pathogenicity, it will be injected into the human body. In this way, that antibody will be stimulated. Clear? This is called as a live vaccine. For example, anthrax vaccine, BCG vaccine. Those are the example of live vaccine. Kindly note it. Live vaccine, that title having the answer. Live vaccine means pathogenicity will be lost and produced the vaccines, that is called as a live vaccine. For example, anthrax vaccine. Anthrax vaccine, BCG, Bacillus climate gonorrhea. This is called as a BCG. Those are the some important live vaccines. The next one is the killed vaccines. So killed vaccines is prepared, name itself having the answer, killed. That microorganisms are killed in their virulent phase by either heat or maybe antisepsis. Antisepsis means a chemical which is used to kill the microorganisms. For example, phenol, formalin, detergent or alcohol, phenol, formalin, alcohol, any things we can use we can spray the microorganism. In this way, organism will be destroyed. Otherwise, we can kill the organism by using the heat, increase the temperature. The microorganism will be killed by the temperature or chemicals, antisepts. So in this way, microorganisms will be killed, which is injected into the human body. So automatically that immunity will be developed. This is called the heat killed vaccines. For example, influenza vaccine, influenza viral vaccines, and Salk vaccine. Those are the example of killed vaccines. Third one is toxide vaccines. Third one is toxide vaccines. So toxide means, what is the meaning of toxin? Our very first class onwards, I am regularly telling in biology, 80%, if you see the literal meaning, you can give answers. Just you have to remember that examples, that organism name only. Toxide vaccines. Toxide vaccines are a preparation of toxins. Toxins means unwanted chemicals can cause the unwanted thing, can cause the harmful effect. It is which is the nature of toxins. So toxides are a preparation of toxins. Toxides are preparation of toxins inactivated by any chemical like a formalin. They retain the antigenic potency, and thus like toxins can induce the antitoxin formation. Clear? I again repeat, toxides are a preparation of toxins. Toxins means a product of microorganism. Here, microorganism directly not involving. The product of organism. Product of organism means the product means, for example, any other amino acids, toxin, substance, any other thing. Those are what are the materials we are receiving from the microorganism, that is called as a product of organism. The toxides are preparation of toxins. Toxins are one of the example of a product of microorganism which is inactivated. The toxins, because the toxins are responsible for the make a harmful effect. The toxins are inactivated by the formalin. They retain the antigenic property. They retain the antigenic property. Antigenic property means it can induce the stimulate the antibody production. So they retain the antigenic property, thus which is called as a toxide vaccine. For example, triple vaccine, DPT, diphtheria toxide, tetanus toxide, and vaccine. Diphtheria toxide, tetanus toxide, DPPD. That is a mixed vaccine. Triple vaccine is called as the mixed vaccine. This is also important need question mark. Triple vaccine means a mixed vaccine which consists of a diphtheria toxide, tetanus toxide, and pertussis vaccines. Clear? Because this is routinely used to produce the active immunity against the diphtheria, tetanus, and whooping cough in children. This is the most important one. So triple vaccine means the DPT, which is used to produce the active immunity against diphtheria, tetanus, and whooping coughing. DPT vaccines for the diphtheria, tetanus, and whooping coughing in children. Clear? On the tetanus toxide, diphtheria toxide, individually diphtheria toxide and tetanus toxide, that vaccines also prepared from the toxide vaccines. The next one is a vaccination schedule. One question may be asked from the vaccination schedule also. So what's the meaning of vaccination schedule? Vaccination means the injection of vaccine to the by individual persons, which is called as a vaccination. Schedule means you know very well. So we are following on schedule means so like a timetable wise, we are preparing the lesson plan like that. So we are planning the particular work, that is called as a schedule one. So vaccination schedule means series of vaccination includes the timing of doses. Timing of doses. This is called the immunization schedule. It varies from country to country because that climate will be changed. Climate will be entirely different from country to country. So immunization schedule, that food habit, everything will be vary. So that immunization schedule also vary from country to country. That vaccines are prepared. Vaccines are preparation of antigens. Just now I told preparation of antigens. So many vaccines are required multiple doses. The multiple doses. For example, if The famous example is a corona injection. The first dose, second one is called as a booster dose. Clear. The first dose we are taking. Second dose also we took. Many people took. Some people they are going to take. But after that, after third wave of corona, that now we are taking the one same dose, which is called as a booster dose, booster to boost the immunity of a previous one, that is called as a booster one. So many vaccines required a multiple dose. First time you are taking the vaccine, that is called as a first dose. The second time if you are taking the dose, which is called as a booster dose, The vaccines schedules are developed by the government agencies. Who prepare the vaccine schedules? Government agencies or physician groups. They only prepare the vaccination schedules. The following immunization schedule. What are the immunization means? So many things are examples. For example, BCG. Any one vaccines may be asked in Neet. BCG, Bacillus climate curin, which can cure the tuberculosis, which prevent the why we are taking a vaccines. Precautions. Why we are taking the vaccines? Precautions. Clear. So some vaccines immunization schedule. Some vaccines are which is used to prevent the diseases. After receiving the disease, we are taking that vaccine in injection form. Clear. So BGC is a third day, in the age of a third day, which prevents the tuberculosis. So OPV, oral polio vaccine, 15th day of a birth of infant. It prevents the poliomyelitis. The next one is a DPT, triple antigens, diphtheria. Now we discussed it. There is a sixth vaccine from the birth. It prevents the diphtheria, tetanus, and prevents polio, coughing. The next one is the DPT. DPT also triple antigens. The next one is a molasses. Will be in the age of 9 to 12 months. It prevents the molasses. Like that, so many vaccine schedules will be there. The importance are now I am explaining. Another is a DPT. 4 to DPT, triple antigens, diphtheria, coughing, and tetanus. 18 to 24th months of child prevents the diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. If combined the DPT with OPV means at the time it also prevents the polio also. MMR, that is also important vaccination. MMR means vaccines. MMR, mumps, molasses, and rubello, or means rubello. It will be injected in the age of 18 months to 2 years of child. Prevents mumps, molasses, and rubello. The next one is a typhoid vaccine. In the age of 2 to 3 years, it prevents the typhoid. The DPT, triple antigens. Just now I told triple antigens in the year of 4 to 6 years. It prevents the diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. It is a booster dose, don't confuse it. The next one is a TT and typhoid. 10th year, prevents the tetanus and typhoid. TT means TT and typhoid, combination of TT and typhoid vaccine. It will be injected in the 10th year, which prevents the tetanus and typhoid. The next one is a TT and typhoid. 16th year, that is a booster dose. Prevents the tetanus and typhoid. Clear? Those are some important immunization schedule. So here you have to remember it. So some many vaccination schedule will be there. So among that one, MMR, DPT, TT, and the booster doses of that one, BGC, OPV. Those are the important vaccines. So you must keep it in your mind. What's the name of the vaccine? In which age injected to the infant or child? That vaccine is used for what purpose? Clear? That thing you have to keep it in your mind. The second one is a passive immunity. So now I completed the acute active immunity. The second one is a passive acute immunity. Second type of acute immunity is a passive acute immunity. The resistance developed by the non-immune individuals. The resistance developed by a non-immune individuals by receiving antibodies or sensitized lymphocytes from an individual is known as a passive immunity. Is known as a passive immunity. So, for example, immunity given by Clostridium of milk to the baby. So, antibodies are transferred immunized host to the non-immunized host. Now you are clear, ma? The antibodies are the transfer from the immunized host to the non-immunized host. So that antibodies will be transferred. Immunized means the developed, that immunized host to the non-immunized host. That is called as a passive immunity or passive acute immunity. The passive immunity, the host does not produce immune response. In passive immunity, host in active cases, host will be produced immunity against the antigen. But in the case of passive acute immunity, host does not produce any immune response. That host does not produce any antibodies or any other cells. The host does not produce resistance. There is no primary and secondary response. Here also the memory cells also not produced. The production is immediate. The protection is immediate. Protection is immediate. Keep it in your mind, ma, that passive acute immunity means here host does not produce anything. Resistance, no primary, secondary, memory cells, they are not produced. The protection is immediate. The protection is temporary. That protection also immediate but temporary, lasting for only few days or few weeks. That passive acute immunity will be present in our body for a short duration, only few days or a few weeks. The passive immunity works out better in 8%. It's less effective in the inferior or active immunity. That passive acute immunity also classified into the two types. That passive acute immunity also classified into the two types. What are passive immunity? Another one is artificial passive immunity. We'll discuss one by one. The first one is natural passive immunity. Natural passive immunity. Natural passive immunity means the development of resistance in fetus by the transfer of antibodies from the mother to fetus naturally, which is known as a natural passive immunity. So passive, what's the meaning of passive? Native. Native means a natural one. Clear? So natural passive immunity. Passive immunity comes under the artificial one. So how that natural will be produced? Like, for example, the development of resistance in fetus by the transfer of antibodies from the mother to the fetus naturally is known as a natural passive immunity. I think now you are clear. So that how the fetus have resistance capacity apart from that innate immunity side. I mean that several physical or mechanical or cellular biochemical factors means that the immunity will be developed from the mother to the infant through the umbilical cord. So the transfer of that one, this is called as a passive natural immunity. That's why here host does not produce any immunity. That immunity will be transferred to the mother to fetus. Mother to fetus. This is called as a natural passive immunity. In human beings, the natural passive immunity occurs mainly by passage of antibody from the mother to unborn child through the placenta during the lateral part of pregnancy. Clear? So through the placenta, antibody will be transferred from the mother to fetus. Mother to fetus during the lateral part of pregnancy. So here that antibodies crossing the placenta are entirely IgG. So during that crossing time, only immunoglobulin G, that is an important question. During that crossing time, immunoglobulin G, that we will discuss the immunoglobulin laterally. That immunoglobulin A, D, E, M, those are the and G. Those are the 5 types of immunoglobulin there. But only that immunoglobulin G, shortly called as the IgG. IgG only crossed. Other immunoglobulin like A, D, E, and M do not cross the placental barrier. Placental barrier. The human Clostridium offers protection the newborn as rich in IgG, IgA antibodies. What is the meaning of Clostridium? That is also important news question. Clostridium means first milk produced by the mother after birth of offspring. First milk produced by the mother after the birth of younger one. That is called as a Clostridium. So first milk, that is called after birth, first milk, that is called as a Clostridium. That is an important question. Important question. The Clostridiums gives a protection to the newborn as a rich in IgA antibody, because that IgA which is present in the mother milk. So kindly note it, that is also important next question. IgA, immunoglobulin A, is present in the mother milk. IgG will be transferred through the placenta, others not transferred. Clear? The natural system of protection cannot operate in beat fertile babies, thereby first feeding is advised to the human being. Here nowadays we are giving the cow milk or goat milk or etc. etc. This thing does not give such immunity. Only that mother milk consists of that IgA. So while we are giving that mother milk, breast milk to the infant, at the time only that IgG, immunoglobulins, immunoglobulin IgA means immunoglobulin A. That immunoglobulin is also called as a antibodies. Immunoglobulin is called as antibodies. All immunoglobulins are antibodies, but all antibodies not immunoglobulins. Keep it in your mind. Ig means immunoglobulin. Immunoglobulin A is transferred from the breastfeeding only. Clear? Till the 3 months of age, the body does not develop any proper immune mechanism. Only from the 5 months onwards, they are able to synthesize the IgM. Clear though, initially IgG will be transferred through placenta, IgA will be transferred to the fetus through the mother milk. The next one is IgM will be developed from only the after 5 months onwards. Up to 5 months, that infant get immunity through the IgA. Clear? IgM means immunoglobulin M, that is a macromolecule. The next macro immunoglobulin, through the immune system not well developed, the baby will protected up to 5 months against various infections by the maternal antibodies. By the maternal antibodies, it received from the mother through the placenta. Clear? So that's all about the passive acute immunity. The next one is the artificial passive immunity. So natural passive immunity means that host does not produce anything. The host does not produce anything, memory cells or immunity, etc. etc. The produced immunity will be transferred from the mother to fetus. That is called shortly called as a natural passive immunity. The next one is the artificial passive immunity. Artificial passive immunity. So artificial passive immunity means the development of resistance in a patient by transferring the antibodies. Transferring the antibodies from donor is known as artificial passive immunity. So we are going to transfer the resistance. They are going to transfer the antibodies or immunized lymphocytes from a donor is called artificial passive immunity. So artificial passive immunity is therapeutically used in the treatment of various diseases like tetanus, diphtheria, snake bite, and other things. Clear? Immunodeficiency diseases also. The artificial passive immunity is brought by using various way. For example, covalent covalescent serum, combined immunization, adaptive immune system. So we can use any one of the methods to produce the active immunity. Any one of the methods, just you can know the term itself. Adaptive immunity, hyper immune serum of animal or human origin, covalent serum, pooled sera from different health individuals, combined immunizations. For example, hyperimmune serum of animals or human origin means anti-tetanus serum, ATS, shortly called as ATS, anti-tetanus serum, which is called as anti-tetanus serum, called as ATS, which is prepared by administration of serious tetanus typhoid to horse. The hyper immune serum is then separated by the bleeding the horses, and the antibodies in the serum are concentrated and purified by the fractionation and enzymatic treatment, and which is used. So ATS means anti-tetanus serum, which is prepared from the hyperimmune serum. Clear? Similarly, like that way, we can use it any one of the methods. So for example, adaptive immunity, which is also comes under the artificial passive immunity. This type of passive immunity produced by the injecting immunologically complement, like lymphocytes. Like when we are injecting the lymphocytes to the particular individuals, so at that time it will be produced antibodies. These methods of adapted treatment of tuberculosis, leprosy. So that's all about the artificial passive immunity. The next one is comparison between what are the differences, comparison between the active immunity and passive immunity. So passive immunity, there is no antigenic stimulates, and so there no participation of a recipient's immune systems. So hence we are going to compare the two things, then only easy to remember for a long time. So that comparison study is a most important one. The first one, that active acute immunity means which stimulates the immune system. But in the case of passive acute immunity, antigens does not stimulate the immune system. In active, antigens stimulate the immune system. In passive acute, antigens does not stimulate the immune system, because antibody will be transferred. The host produces the antibody. In active acute, host produces the antibody, but the passive, the host receives only the antibody. Clear? In active acute, immune response brings after a long period. Immune response brings a long period. After a long periods, after a lag period. But immediate effect only. In passive acute immunity, immediate effect only, no lag period. Active acute immunity gives a permanent protection, but the passive acute temporary protection only. Temporary protection only. In active acute immunity, primary, secondary immune response, memory cells are produced. But in the case of passive acute immunity, there is no secondary primary response, there is no the production of memory cells. In active acute immunity, infection is prevented. In passive acute immunity, infection is not prevented, because that is a temporary thing only. Effective in many diseases. In acute immunity, effective for many diseases, but passive acute immunity effective for only the few diseases. Active immunity is more effective, but passive immunity is less effective because here there is no antibody production, only transformation. Example for acute immunity, so many things I told. Although that malarious infection and polio vaccines are example for the acute immunity. That Clostridium of milk, treatment of snake bite, those are the example of a passive acute immunity. So that's all about the immunity. So you have to keep it in your mind, ma, that immunity is very important one. Surely that any answer will be asked. So any questions will be asked in the immunity side. Clear that immunity is classified into the two types. First one is innate immunity. Innate immunity means just like skin or DS or cellular factors, biochemical factors involved. That is called as innate immunity. Acute immunity means where antibody will be produced or cells will be involving for the protection of antigens, disease causing agent. This is called as acute immunity. That acute are two types, active and passive. So active means antibodies will be produced or cells will be involving, like a T cells and B cells, which is called as a active immunity, active acute immunity, which is also subdivided into the two. Another one is the passive, also subdivision, having the subdivision like natural and artificial. The passive means here that action is only temporary because of there is no production of memory cells, primary, secondary immune response, or etc. etc. This is a summary of that immunity. Next one is the lymphoid organs. Next one is lymphoid organs. Lymphoid organs. Lymphoid organs means what's the meaning of lymphoid organs? Lymphoid organs. So lymphoid organs are concerned with the production of immune cells and immune reactions, called lymphoid organs. The organisms concerned with the production of immune cells and immune response are called lymphoid organs. So that organs of human beings are very important, very essential for the production of immune cells or immune reactions. Such organs are called as the lymphoid organs. Any organism will be supporting for the immune cells or immune reactions. Such organs are called as the lymphoid organs. That lymphoid organs are the which is involving to protection and training center. Protection production, through that production it will protect the immune cells. That lymphoid organs will center point of protection for the some things. That production of that B cells are like that. In this way it will protect the human bodies. So that's why that lymphoid organs are called as a training center. The lymphoid organs are and lymphoid cells consist of the lymphoid system. That lymphoid organs and lymphoid cells having the lymphoid system. The lymphoid organs are two types. What are they? Primary lymphoid organs and secondary lymphoid organs. First one is the primary lymphoid organs. Second one is the secondary lymphoid organs. So primary lymphoid organs. So the lymphoid organs means that thing that organism involving for the immune response or etc. So primary lymphoid organs. So primary lymphoid organs are a major site of lymphopoiesis. What's the meaning of lymphopoiesis? Formation of lymphocytes. Formation of lymphocytes. So lymphoid organs are a major sites of lymphopoiesis. Here the lymphoid stem cells are proliferated and differentiated and mature into the immunocompetent cells in the absence of antigenic stimulates. So that the lymphocytes will be proliferate. Proliferate means multiply, and differentiate. Differentiate means one cells will be matured into the another one cells, differentiate and forms the another cells to do the particular functions, which is called as the differentiation. The primary lymphoid organs, which is known as a protection center. Production center. Production center means so many things will be produced. For example, T cells and B cells will be produced from the primary lymphoid organs. So primary lymphoid organs are large at birth and they will atrophy with age. Clear? That is an important point. The primary lymphoid organs are large at birth and atrophy with age. The mature lymphocytes of primary lymphoid organs are migrate through the blood or lymph and accumulate in the secondary lymphoid organs. After the maturation of lymphocytes, the primary lymphoid organs will be migrated through the blood or a lymph. That migrated lymphocytes will be accumulated in the secondary lymphoid organ for the further functional ones. For the first functional ones, those cells are exposed to the antigenic stimulates, becomes a functional by the production of a specific antibody. So the primary lymphoid organs and secondary lymphoid organs both will be supporting for the immunity development. The primary lymphoid organs will be supporting for the production of a B cells, D cells like that. It will be functioned in the secondary lymphoid organs. The primary lymphoid and the secondary lymphoid both will be important for the immunity. So what are the types of primary lymphoid organs? Means the thymus, bursa of Babesis, and bone marrow in mammals. Those are the example of the primary lymphoid organs. So primary lymphoid organs, the important thing is the B cells and T cells will be produced in the primary lymphoid organs, because the B cells and D cells will be very, very important. B cells and T cells, because of B cells, just now I told B cells are responsible for the antibody mediated immunity. The B cells will be produced the plasma cells. Plasma cells will produce the antibody. That antibody will be interacted with the antigens and neutralize the antigens. The next one is the T cells. T cells means the T lymphocytes. The T cells will produce that macrophages through the lymphokinases. That macrophages engulfing the antigens. It will this way antigen will be destroyed. So the cell mediated, both the cell mediated immunity and the antibody mediated immunity will be produced, controlled by the B cells and D cells. So that both, that is a very, very important in immunology. The B cells and D cells are a very, very immunology, immune system part. That B cells and T cells are produced by the primary lymphoid cells. Clear? So the same time, the B cells and D cells mature in primary lymphoid organs. Here that antigens does not enter into the primary lymphoid organs. The primary lymphoid organs are large. After that only till grow. The many things are there. Examples: thymus and bone marrow is a very important primary lymphoid organs in human beings. That bone marrow, stem cells, lymphocytes, and blood cells are produced from the primary lymphoid organs. The thymus is a training center for T cells. The T cells will be produced from the thymus. The bursa of Babesis will be produced only, will be present in only the birds. And bone marrow or produces the B cells. So thymus are responsible for the T cells, and the bone marrow, which is responsible for the production of B cells. Clear? So tomorrow we will discuss about the primary lymphoid organs with the examples. So now I gave the introduction about the lymphoid organs and I gave introduction about the primary lymphoid organs. Clear? Because if I continuously take immunology is like somewhat like a max. If you understand that concept, easy to remember it. If not, means you cannot understand the entire study. Clear? So similarly, that immunology is a very interesting one. If you are talking about that one, means continuously we can talk up to 2 to 3 hours or 4 hours like that. Some people's may feel dust. It makes a confusion, sir, like that. Clear. So that's why up to this level is okay. So tomorrow we will discuss about the examples of that primary lymphoid organs and functions and secondary lymphoid organs. Tomorrow we will discuss about those things. Today class is over. Thank you, students. Thank you.